Welcome to the Alchemy Consulting Group podcast. Join Arquella Hargrove, Alchemy's Chief Culture Officer, for impactful conversations with business leaders and experts who are committed to transforming their work cultures and creating inclusive work environments. Let's learn, develop, and garner best practices together. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Alchemy Consulting Group podcast, where we distill conversations with thought leaders to bring you transformative insights and strategies. And our mission is that we transform organizational cultures one business at a time. And so join us as we explore vital topics that empower leaders and galvanize their teams and reshape the world of work. So let the alchemy begin. I'm Arquella Hargrove, Chief Culture Officer, and looking forward to another engaging conversation with our thought leader and friend and collaborator, Hope Malveaux. Looking forward to the conversation. Before we get to Hope, let's get to our co-host, Deanna. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, Deanna Candelaria Reyes. Glad to be on this conversation again today. So thanks for having me. So as Arquella and Hope and others in our collaborative circle, got a background in executive coaching and change and organizational development here in the Houston area. So looking forward to engaging with the marvelous Hope.
Awesome. Y'all, let me just say, Hope Malveaux is a culture champion. She's the queen of culture and conscious human resources. And so I am honored. I'm just excited again for you to be here, Hope. If you can share a little bit more about your background and how you are impacting the world at Veaux Professional for our guest.
Yes, thank you so much for the amazing opportunity. Just super excited to be here. So I am Hope Malveaux. I'm the CEO of Veaux Professional Services. And honestly, Veaux started just with the human aspect in mind. And we said, we're going to go out and we're going to do HR differently. And we're going to have a conscious HR approach. And that means it's intentional. We believe strongly in workplace culture and intentionally creating a work environment that's positive, that improves performance, which also improves profits. So that's what we focus on here at Veaux. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Hope. We're looking forward to the conversation. And so we want to kick it off. We want to really lean into talking more about how do you create, what are those strategies around creating that intentional organizational culture? And some research tells us, right, when we create these thriving organizational cultures, it can be ongoing, it could be dynamic, and definitely crucial for operational success, but also it is key that leaders are involved in the process. And we sometimes say the leaders are the carriers of the culture. And so really want to kick off and talk about the importance around culture and just really what are some things that you are doing differently as it relates to helping organizations to transform those workplace cultures.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So we know culture exists, right? Leaders are in position, right? They have a major responsibility to create the culture for their organizations. It's super crucial. There's a business case for it, right? Employee engagement goes up, positivity grows up, innovation can happen. People feel like they belong. So we know that there's a business case for it. But the question is like, how do we do it? How do we do it? Because culture is very much like breathing. It's happening, even if we don't see it. So it's like, well, how do we capture that breath? How are we able to truly see it? And it's really focusing on behaviors. For us, what we've learned in just working in, we have a strong background in mergers and acquisitions, and we find that 90% of mergers and acquisitions fail because they fail to focus on the people issues. And we found out we don't have performance issues. We don't have attendance issues. We have culture issues. So how do we fix that? Well, we have to focus on behaviors. And there's very little innovation around how we treat our employees in the workplace. We give them performance management and we do all these things. We give them goals. But honestly, when you want your child to behave, to stop jumping on the couch, you don't give them a goal. you teach them how to not jump on the couch, right? You tell them this is the behavior we want to see in order for us to, X, Y, and Z. And so we focus a lot on very practical, hands-on skills, and it starts with those behaviors that we want to see.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Deanna.
I love, Hope, that you said so two magic words. One was intentionality, and two was behaviors, right? And so
Yes.
that's really what we're after. And I love that you talk about intentionality in creating or modeling, those behaviors. On the flip side, right? What are the outputs or some of the side effects that happen, if we don't intentionally create culture?
Well, culture is going to happen, right? Like we said with breathing, and we use the analogy that a fruit fly getting into something that we're trying to preserve, we're trying to create, in that process of growing can ruin the whole thing. So we think about negative behavior, and it could just be one employee. Let's just be clear. It could be one leader, that has a negative ... whatever that might be. And we're not intentional about making sure that's a positive, outflow, then we can ruin our company culture. So those business goals that we have from strategic planning that we've done, if we don't focus on the behaviors that we actually need to see in order to get that output, then we're going to have the opposite of what we want, which does look like low employee engagement, high retention. There's a lot of conflict on the team. There's a lot of morale issues. And then we have people that are quietly quitting. They're in your organization, but they're really not giving 100%. And let's be clear, they're not giving 100%, and neither are we if we're not focusing on intentional culture creation.
Yeah, definitely. And so being mindful of what's going on, and then how do we make sure that we are, overcoming some of those challenges and doing better and being better. And so when we think about, again, it starts with leadership and definitely building trust, and those behaviors help to build trust and help leaders to understand what they need to do in order to lean in and to make sure that those things are happening for sure, to avoid the quiet quitting. I like to say people are on vacation at work, checked out, or they have retired and checked out at work. And so we don't want that, right? We are looking for people to be engaged and highly productive and all of that. And so we want to make sure, again, we're doing our part as leaders. So we talked about leaders, again, being the change, carrying the culture, but who else should be involved, Hope, in this process of creation or co-creating in the change within the organization?
Yeah, everyone. Everyone.
Everyone's responsibility.
Everyone's responsibility. Yeah, it really is truly everyone's responsibility. And I think that oftentimes leaders are doing an amazing job, by the way. Let me just stop and say you're doing an amazing job. It's that we do feel as leaders that we have to do it all. We are definitely responsible for leading, but we also are responsible for getting our teams on board. So it's everyone in the organization that's responsible for it. There's a video out about why should we truly, focus on company culture and organizational culture. And there's a story about UPS versus the Postal Service and their trucks. And their Postal Service trucks have to be repaired, every 2 to 3 years, whereas the UPS truck doesn't. And the difference is UPS, the workers clean their trucks and the Postal Service workers don't. So that maintenance that is happening on the UPS side is actually extending the life cycle of the trucks, which actually extends the profit, right? It increases profit. I don't have to go back and keep buying trucks. And it's that very thing there that you see that everybody's responsible, not just the mechanic. This is their space too. They're living in this space and they're driving this truck too. So now it becomes everybody's responsibility. Culture is everyone's responsibility. However, the importance of pushing it actually starts with the leader. It does. It starts with the leader.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And leaders, they are leading by example. And as I mentioned, they are leaning into those core value behaviors. They're also consistently demonstrating that through their own actions and what they say and what they do, for sure, to ensure that the team members and everyone else are able to see that example so they can know what it looks like and sound like to drive, right, those values and to live into them for sure. Deanna, anything when you think about, again, just the conversation around, again, leaders, and it's everyone's responsibility to drive culture, what else should we be thinking about when it comes to, again, just who's responsible and just what are things that we need to be doing differently or thinking about differently?
So I want to go back to something that Hope said, and I love the example that you shared, Hope, about the Postal Service and the UPS. And to me, the underlying piece there was ownership and accountability. And so the person that's cleaning their truck and maintaining their truck compared to not, right? Like there's a sense of like pride and ownership and accountability with that. And it becomes like, I am part of this organization. I am this culture versus over there, that company, I work for them versus this is, embedded within me. And so I think, excuse me, I think that that's a really big piece and undertone that we've got to continue to think about.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like back to that example, which is a great example, like treat it like it's your own vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, or when you travel, it's like, treat this like this is your own space, right? And so, again, going to your point, Deanna, is that people taking ownership, they're being empowered, right, to take this on as their own, which is key. And so, Hope, if you can share with us, what does optimal culture look like presently? And I know you do a lot of great work and you have some great tools and things as it relates to culture archetypes and everything. And so we want to definitely hear more about that and how you're able to leverage that within organizational cultures for them to be even more successful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So there's so many different culture archetypes that you can have. I think number one, it's having the culture that sustains and benefits your business. So if you're a nonprofit, you're probably going to have a greater good culture. What should a greater good culture look like? Well, it looks like community driven. It looks very much like, polling your community to see what your community, needs from you. So that culture looks very different than a culture that's more like, let's say, an achievement culture. An achievement culture might look like, okay, we want, everyone to, it's probably competitive. It's extremely competitive. There's probably some leaderboards going on where departments are looking at each other like, hey, I'm making my goal this month. What are you doing? So it's, when we talk about the optimal culture, we really have to think of the DNA of that organization because it will look different. And for me, it's at its peak performance when your goals are aligning with performance and you are seeing profits. Period. I mean, you have actually outlined, and we talk about values, and I do want to talk about that a lot because, again, I mentioned earlier, there's not a lot of innovation around how HR looks and how culture creation looks. But to be honest, values are very nice to have, and they are great for marketing, amazing for marketing. But we need to take those values and they got to mean something to your employees now. So if my value is integrity, what does that look like for me, the administrative assistant at this job? Well, that probably means I don't steal the supplies. Mm-hmm. So we probably should have, a behavior that we are, we're responsible and we are trustworthy. And that looks like this in this role. So it's really getting extremely granular about what you believe your culture needs to look like in order to meet these strategic goals that we have. So it looks different for everybody. I'm hoping I'm answering the question, but yeah, I'm hoping I'm answering it because it will look different. But I would say if those goals are being met, and I mean, your employees are happy, they're engaged, they're cleaning their truck. Okay. If your employees are cleaning the truck, then you are probably at your optimal culture.
Title of your next workshop, Hope.
I know. That's great. Is your truck clean?
Is your truck clean? Yes. So that's my take on it.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. We probably have seen and experienced, right? We go into organizations, and I've definitely worked at organizations where they have these beautiful, posters of, trust and integrity. And then it's like, ooh, there's some things that are going on that is like, y'all not
Lift the
living into
hood of
that
the truck,
trust.
and there's not that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, you got to be able to live it. And so a lot of times it is going back to, okay, so what does that look like? What does that sound like? And what's the how to it? And be able to really outline those behaviors. And that's some of the things that we do with organizations is we like, hey, you all want to have core values, but there has to be a linkage to some type of behavior where people understand what that looks and feels like. And then, hey, you're going to have this as part of your performance management process or coaching as well.
Yes, and understanding that looks different for every organization. Customer service, at the Ritz-Carlton looks different than customer service at the Holiday Inn. It's just a whole different dynamic, right? And it's understanding that. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Are there different, I know in your work, Hope, that, again, I know you've built out where you have these different types and everything. Can you give us some of the categories of those different types when you're dealing with the different organizational cultures? What are some of the types that we can look out for?
Oh my gosh. So we have achievement cultures. We have, like I said, the greater good is really a good one. The team of one, we try to say, don't say family, don't say we're a family culture, and that sounds good, right? Like I treat you like family. Well, we don't always hold our family accountable. Back to what Deanna was saying, right? That accountability. I'm not telling on my sister. I'm just telling you right now. So it's like creating that team one culture is the very same essence, but we're holding everyone accountable. It looks like customer centric cultures, and that culture is like, hey, we strive to make sure our customers are taken care of. That means the behaviors and the actions, they all foster that type of culture. I mean, and then we have some negative ones. We don't have to go into those. We don't have to go into those because we're trying to move away from those. But honestly, it's the opposite of the achievement culture. We have the innovative culture. So there's so many different ones. We have the safety cultures where for them, safety is paramount to everything they do. And you see that a lot in construction. So we have a few clients where they're like, Hope, safety this, safety that. So though there are other culture types that are, merged into it, that key thing is safety. They're definitely thinking about, making sure that their employees are safe, the vendors are safe, and of course the work sites that they're working at are safe. So several different ones that we unpack when we're working with clients.
And Hope,
I like it.
To add to that, I think I love how you gave those examples of the types and how you said, well, of the opposite of achievement. And I don't know if you have found this, but I know that I've seen this often is when organizations are really huddled around whatever that mission is or those values, right? Whether it's safety or the good, the betterment, the good, that those profits come, right? So that achievement comes.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's what births it. That's why I'm saying culture still is happening, right? And I also say, if you really want to know where your culture stands, where do you put your money? What's driving your financial decisions? So if you say, hey, we have an innovative culture or we have a learning culture, well, do you invest in training? Are your employees able to, at a certain, dollar limit, able to bring in, more technology in, or is it just different processes? So it's like your money tells me exactly what your culture is and looks like. And so we go there too, like where, if you want this culture looks like this, and an innovative culture sounds amazing, especially in this day and time. But that means that there's a whole lot of failing going on, right? And are you okay with that? Otherwise, we don't have an innovative culture. So it's really digging in deep and really understanding what it means.
This is great. This is good stuff. We can talk about this all day.
I know.
I know. So, Hope, tell us and share with us kind of what do great cultures look like in the future? what do great cultures look like in the future? Like 5 years from now, right? We see all these, future centric movies. Like, what can we
Yeah.
see? What can we
Yes.
expect?
Well, we know technology exists in it, right? We know technology exists in it. So that's really hard. When the pandemic happened, I remember we had to change our culture like this, right?
Mhm.
So we can always forecast, but the culture, it may or may not be what we forecast in the future because we just simply don't know. We became all a technology culture driven company. Like, how can we now connect with each other? And 5 years prior, I doubt that a lot of us were even thinking like that, right? So I think what we do is we look at the generation that's coming into the workforce and we talk to them about what they need, what's important to them, and we shape our culture for the future. We don't do it with our ideals in mind, right? We have those internship programs. We talk to them about, what do you like? What do you dislike? I mean, I give this analogy that my daughter, when I want coffee, I just go get coffee. I don't Google anything. My daughter goes and gets coffee. She's looking at the company. She's looked at their values and she wants to make sure her personal values aligns with where she's spending her money, right? Right. So when we're thinking of creating culture, it's like we have to go to that generation and say, what is it that, how do you want to learn? How do you want to communicate? Do you want a hybrid situation? And that's how you create it. I don't think we have the magic answer yet. I do know technology is in it. I do know flexibility is in it. And the word freedom is in it. So how that's going to fall, we're not 100% sure. We're not 100% sure. And I pondered on that for a while, right? Like, research obviously shows that the next generation, they're going to do things differently. They don't necessarily want to, work an 8-hour shift, and they don't necessarily want to be sitting in an office, and they want the freedom to be able to moonlight and work at different organizations as they please without it being an issue. And so our culture has got to match up to that. Our policies, procedures, all that. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. There's a company that is known, right, for their culture, and that is Zappos. And the late CEO, founder, CEO Tony Hsieh says that, he said that we believe that it's really important to come up with core values that you can commit to. And by commit, we mean that you're willing to hire and fire based on them. If you're willing to do that, then you're well on your way to building a company culture that is in line with the brand you want to build. And again, Zappos is known for its culture and what they do and how they do it. And so that quote just really resonated with me in regards to just making that commitment to having a great culture and really living it and standing by it for sure.
And I love that you said that, making that commitment. It's at that point, it's in your mind. This is what we have to do. I absolutely love that quote. You hire slow and you fire fast. There's a reason for that. You're taking your time. I always say, I am hiring on character, not on content. And for me, if a person is sitting in front of me, they already have the skill set, right? They would never have even made it, in front of me to interview. So now I'm looking at culture. I'm thinking about my team. I'm thinking about my assessments that I've done, and I understand my team now, right? And now I know who will fit into not only my team dynamic, but the overall company culture, because I've done the work. I know what my desired culture looks like, and we're living it. And I want someone to come in and contribute to it, not disrupt it, not disrupt it. So no, that's really good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Which brings us, go ahead, Deanna.
No, I was going to just say, as we're kind of coming down to closing our conversation today, I was curious, when you think about our listeners and you think about, what's the takeaway? Like, what's the action that you want them to kind of walk away with?
Yeah, I really want them to think about the culture they want. We have an exercise where we have clients to, create their perfect employee persona. It might be 10 of them, but we want you to focus in on one position, one role. Create those behaviors you want to see. Just write them out. It doesn't have to be anything heavy. It could look like accountable, showing up in meetings on time, a meeting preparedness. Write all of that down and then write the counter of that. And then determine how that shows up in your organization. Are we more on our desired behavior side, or are we more on the other side, the opportunity for improvement side? And if we are there, it's okay, because now we know. Now we know, right? And now we've really thought through the desired behavior. Now we can actually do something about it. You contact me or Arquella at Alchemy, and we can have a conversation about how to fix that, because it's fixable. It's fixable. We can do this. We can do this. But yeah, that's the takeaway. Take inventory. Let's find out what's going on.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Hope. That was great. And just lots of great nuggets. Share with our listeners how they can definitely connect with you and to learn more about these service offerings that you are providing. Again, you're doing some great work in the world, and looking forward to hearing more.
Thank you so much. Well, I can be reached at LinkedIn, Hope Malveaux. Also, Veaux Pro is also on LinkedIn, and my website is www.veauxpro.com. And we do culture pop-ups. We can do a lunch and learn with your leaders. So we're just really invested in creating amazing workplace cultures, and we can't do it without you. So let's go. Let's get it done.
Awesome. Let's get it. I love it. Deanna, closing words from you to our audience.
Yeah, no, thank you. This has been a great session, you guys, and I hope the audience has taken away, things like behaviors, things about, where we put our money, right, and how that highlights our values. And so, yeah, really great stuff, Hope. Thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Well, this wraps another great conversation. And again, just want to thank everyone for tuning in and engaging with us on the journey towards, again, enriching organizational cultures and leadership. And also just want everyone to remember that each conversation is always a step towards transformation. I want to encourage everyone to continue to lead and innovate and thrive until we meet again. Thank you all.
Thank you for tuning in to the Alchemy Consulting Group podcast. Follow this podcast on social media and help continue the conversation by sharing your business and leadership best practices. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you consume yours, and share this podcast with your organizations and networks. Let's strengthen the community of those committed to responsible leadership and work environments where everyone can thrive.